By 1944, German pilots whispered the same warning. If a Mustang is above you, you're already finished. Luftwaffe training manuals quietly shifted. One fighter was marked as the aircraft German pilots should never challenge head-on. German records show entire interceptor units wiped out by a single fighter they could neither outrun nor outclimb. For the first time in the war, German pilots feared the high altitudes because that's exactly where the Mustangs waited. Even top Luftwaffe aces admitted privately, Mustang changed everything. In the sky. The P-51 didn't just defeat German fighters, it broke the Luftwaffe faster than Germany could replace its pilots. By 1944, the air war had changed fast. German pilots who once ruled the sky were now on the back foot. The reason was simple: the P-51 Mustang. It reached deep into Germany, stayed with the bombers, and attacked from high altitude. For the Luftwaffe, this was the moment the hunter became the hunted. German radar picked up the incoming bombers early, just like every mission. Luftwaffe pilots climbed fast, expecting the usual fight. But something felt different. The escorts weren't turning back over the border this time. The Mustangs were still climbing, still coming, and still full of fuel. For German pilots, that was the first bad sign. As the Luftwaffe reached higher altitude, they saw the truth. The P-51s weren't falling behind like earlier Allied fighters. They were matching the climb and closing the distance. German pilots realized the Mustangs could reach them anywhere, even deep inside Germany. The sky no longer felt like their territory. The Germans tried to climb above the American escorts, the same move that once gave them the advantage. But the P-51's Merlin engine kept pushing upward with surprising power. German pilots reported the same shocking sight: the Mustangs weren't below them. They were rising past them. Their old tactics no longer worked. The first attack came fast. A Mustang group dove from the sun, using light and altitude to hide their approach. German pilots later said they had almost no time to react. Some never saw the Mustang that fired at them. For the Luftwaffe, it was a clear message: the Americans now owned the high ground. German units tried to break away and reform, but the Mustangs stayed on them. The P-51 was faster in level flight and could dive harder without losing control. Luftwaffe reports from early 1944 show the same pattern. Once a Mustang locked in, it rarely lost the chase. German pilots called it the long shadow. You could run, but you couldn't escape. The German fighters attempted tight turns to shake the Mustangs, a move that worked against earlier U.S. planes. But the P-51 held energy better during high-speed maneuvers. Even when a Mustang overshot, it could climb back and re-enter the fight faster than most German aircraft. Luftwaffe pilots soon learned, turning fights were no longer safe. As more Mustangs joined the fight, the German pilots faced another problem: numbers. The P-51's long range meant more escorts could stay over the bombers for the entire mission. The Luftwaffe was losing experienced aces and replacing them with younger pilots who had far less training. Against the Mustang, that gap became deadly. German radio traffic captured during missions tells the same story: Mustangs above, Mustangs behind, Mustangs everywhere. The P-51's presence forced German units to break formation early, making coordinated attacks on bomber groups nearly impossible. The Luftwaffe's old hit-and-run strategy collapsed under constant Mustang pressure. Even the German high command noticed the shift. Reports from early 1944 warned that bomber losses were dropping sharply, not because of new bomber tactics, but because the P-51 was tearing apart German intercept units. Every destroyed German fighter meant one less pilot for the next mission, and the Luftwaffe could not replace them fast enough. On many missions, German pilots tried attacking from above, diving onto the bomber groups. But the Mustangs were already waiting at the same altitude. When a German fighter began its dive, a P-51 often matched it instantly. The Mustang's dive stability was better, letting it follow cleanly without shaking or losing control. What used to be the Luftwaffe's safest attack angle was now one of their most dangerous. German pilots also struggled with fuel limits. Their fighters had short range and could only stay in combat for a brief window. The P-51 didn't have that problem. With dropped tanks, Mustangs could patrol for hours and still fight with strength. This meant German pilots were forced into battles they couldn't delay. The longer the mission went on, the more the advantage shifted to the Mustangs. By mid-1944, the Mustangs weren't just escorting, they were hunting. P-51 groups swept ahead of the bombers, clearing the air before the main force arrived. Many Luftwaffe units were hit before they even saw the bomber stream. Some German pilots took off, climbed a few minutes, and were attacked immediately. It was a level of pressure they had never faced before. German airfields also became targets. Mustang pilots used their speed and long range to strike runways, fuel depots, and parked aircraft. A single P-51 sweep could destroy multiple grounded fighters before they even took off. For the Luftwaffe, the danger now began the moment they climbed into their cockpit, and sometimes even before that. Many German reports described the same moment of fear, seeing a silver shape above them, slightly angled, perfectly positioned for a dive. That shape was usually a P-51. Luftwaffe pilots knew what came next: a fast attack from high altitude, followed by another and another. The Mustang's speed and energy meant it could strike, climb away, and hit again before the Germans could reorganize. German pilots quickly learned that climbing to escape didn't work. The P-51 had one of the best climb rates at high altitude. Even if a German fighter gained a small lead, the Mustang closed the gap again within seconds. Luftwaffe diaries often mention the same fear: the Mustang keeps coming. No matter the maneuver, it stayed on the chase. Another problem for the Germans was visibility. The P-51's bubble canopy gave pilots a wide, clear view in all directions. German fighters still used framed canopies with blind spots. In fast-turning fights, this mattered a lot. Mustang pilots could spot threats sooner, set up better attacks, and break away safely. German pilots often never saw the Mustang behind them until it was too late. By summer 1944, the Luftwaffe's most experienced aces were gone. Many were lost during the missions over Germany when the P-51 arrived. Their replacements were younger men with only a few hours of real combat training. Facing veteran Mustang pilots with thousands of flying hours, these new pilots stood almost no chance. Losses rose sharply every month. The Mustang also hurt Germany on the ground. P-51s attacked trains, convoys, and fuel trucks across German-controlled territory. The Luftwaffe needed fuel to fight, and gasoline was already running low. Every destroyed transport made it harder for German pilots to even reach the battlefield. Many fighters sat unused because there was no fuel left to fly them. German High Command admitted the situation in reports from late 1944. They wrote that the P-51 had complete initiative over Germany. This meant the Mustangs decided when to fight and when to strike. The Luftwaffe could only react, never control the battle. For a force that once dominated Europe, this was a major shift. One of the biggest shocks for German pilots was the Mustang's range. They were used to Allied fighters turning back early, leaving bombers exposed. But the P-51 stayed with the bombers all the way to the target and all the way home. This destroyed Germany's old strategy of hitting bombers during the unprotected return path. That safe window disappeared overnight. German pilots also feared the Mustang because of its teamwork. Yuzov squadrons trained to fight in pairs and full groups, covering each other at all times. The Luftwaffe, short on pilots, often flew scattered and alone. When a German fighter attacked one Mustang, two more appeared from above. This constant support made the P-51 extremely hard to surprise. Many German pilots described the same moment: hearing the deep roar of their engine, then suddenly the sharp, smooth sound of a Mustang passing close by. The P-51's speed allowed it to enter a fight, fire, and exit before a German pilot even reacted. In combat reports, Luftwaffe survivors wrote that the Mustang arrived like a knife, fast and precise. Even top German aces noticed the change. Pilots like Adolf Galland and Johannes Steinhoff wrote that the Mustang forced them to fight defensively for the first time. They respected the P-51's speed, climb, and high-altitude performance. When pilots with thousands of hours start avoiding a certain enemy, younger pilots become terrified of it. By late 1944, the Luftwaffe was losing aircraft faster than it could replace them. Every day, more Mustangs arrived, more bomber raids began, and fewer experienced German pilots were left to stop them. The P-51 didn't just win battles, it crushed the Luftwaffe's ability to fight. The fear wasn't from one Mustang, it was from thousands now filling the sky. As the Mustang pressure grew, German pilots began avoiding high-altitude fights altogether. They knew the P-51 performed best above 20,000 feet. But staying low created new problems. Allied radar could track them, and Mustang groups could strike from above at any moment. No altitude felt safe. Whether they climbed or stayed low, the Mustangs always had the advantage. By late 1944, many Luftwaffe pilots were flying damaged aircraft, short on fuel and short on parts. The P-51 squadrons, backed by strong American supplies, kept arriving fully equipped and ready. Even when German fighters managed to get airborne, they often faced Mustangs minutes after takeoff. The war in the air had become one-sided. Mustang pilots also targeted Germany's last hope, its jet program. P-51s often caught Me-262 jets during landing or takeoff, when they were slow and vulnerable. This stopped the Luftwaffe from fully using its advanced aircraft. Even Germany's most modern fighters couldn't change the air war because the Mustangs controlled the sky around every airfield. By early 1945, the Luftwaffe was nearly broken. Training schools were empty, fuel reserves were gone, and many pilots had only a few days of experience. The P-51 continued sweeping German skies daily, clearing the way for Allied bombers and ground troops. For many German pilots, seeing a Mustang didn't mean a fight, it meant the end of the war was close. The P-51 Mustang didn't win because of one feature, it won because it combined range, speed, altitude, and teamwork. It outclassed German fighters and pushed the Luftwaffe past its breaking point. For German pilots, the Mustang became a symbol of a sky they could no longer control. And by the end of the war, the fear of the P-51 wasn't just a feeling, it was reality.